What's good? We're back in this thing. Today we're going to be going over this Autumn Noticed It music video, this kind of like water explosion effect that was done in the music video. Kind of similar to the Mr. Mercury one I did a little bit ago, but it kind of has its own little twist. And then the one I'm going to be showing similar to his, but I also just put my own twist on it, so it's not exactly the same thing. The video is edited by Nitetive. He's a dope editor. I'll have him linked below. I'm sure you guys are all familiar with him, but his Instagram linked below. If you're new here, what I do is a lot of music video effect breakdowns and just like music video breakdowns, as well as I'm starting to do some vlogs just showcasing my journey and what it's like being out in LA and just transitioning more into the industry side of stuff. So if you're interested in those, check those out. If you haven't already subscribed, because I think like 50% of you guys are not subscribed, that would help me reach my goal of 2021 reaching 100,000 subscribers. So if you have a friend that's interested as well, tell him. Let them know. Let's go for 500 likes, 100 comments on this video. It helps push my content to other people that want to see the videos. If you want to support the channel even more, you can go over to briandelmata.com. Check out my website. I got a new thermal pack that just came out. Kind of gives a little thermal effects. It's really easy, drag and drop, as well as the paper texture pack that I'm sure you guys are all familiar with. I have like 20 something tutorials on that, so I'll have a link to the website as well as a tutorial playlist link below. If you're not already, follow me on Instagram. I just document stuff that I do daily, and it's a good way to like keep up with me and interact with me. I reply to all my DMs. But yeah, guys, that's enough talking. Let's get into the video, break down this effect, and yeah, it's pretty simple. Let's get it. So the effect that I'm taking inspiration from is this like turbulence displace glow effect. It's pretty cool. I'm going to use it more as like a explosion look, but that's where I'm getting the inspiration from for this effect. The first thing you got to do is rotoscope out your subject. So go to the rotoscopes tool up here. If you don't see, you can hold Alt W. It'll bring it up, and then like I always say, get a good rotoscope of your subject. The better you do the first frame, the better the rotoscope's going to know what to actually grab the next frame, as well as just going to look better on your overall effect. And then I go to preview and I go frame by frame, just making sure it doesn't break away. It's doing a pretty good job here. I always go a little quicker for the tutorials just because it's not really important how clean it is for the tutorial. But if it's for your music video, obviously you want it to look good, so spend the time. It's a little hard because he already has some like chromatic aberrations or something on the video, so it's kind of like blurring and the colors are splitting a bit. It's not too bad. And then I'm not even going to go ahead and do the whole clip because I'm only going to have the transition be like 10 to 20 frames, and I already did 86. You don't need to do an insane large portion of the clip. Maybe I'll do like a little bit longer now that I did 86 frames. But go ahead and click freeze once you're done with the roto brush. It's going to lock in your roto brush and mask out your subject, as well as not allow you to change your roto brush input unless you unfreeze it. And then once it's done freezing, just go up here to layer and click close, and that's going to show what your rotoscope looks like. Ours looks pretty clean. You can see there's a white hue around the edge here. I'm going to bring shift edge all the way to -100, and then also just feather it a bit, maybe something like 10, add a little bit of contrast to it as well. It's all dependent on your clip, obviously, but those are some things I do to make it look a little cleaner. Control D that clip, and then remove the roto brush from there. And as well, I'm just going to split it in half because I don't want it to be that long of a roto brush clip, and remove the roto brush from there. And the first thing I'm going to go ahead and do, and the main effect in this effect, is turbulence displace. So go ahead and drag that onto the background layer here, and you should see it starts to twist up a little bit and get a little crazy. And the first thing I'm going to go to do is turbulent smoother. I just think it looks a little bit better. And then as well as maybe bring down the size a little bit, and maybe keyframe up the amount a little bit. And then I'm going to go preview, and if you hold shift, it's going to go 10 frames each time you click next frame. So I'm going to go 20 frames in, and then maybe keyframe the size down a little bit, the complexity up a little bit, and then the size up a bunch till where it's like breaking almost. So basically 1,000 for me. And then I'm going to keyframe the amount a little bit more too. And then I'm going to go to the keyframes, and this is where you just kind of play with it. It's all depending on each clip. Forgot to actually keyframe the complexity here. So I'm going to go ahead and bring it back down to 1, and then once it gets to the end, keyframe it up a bit. And then the amount I actually ended up bringing down to 120 from 400. So the amount starts off high, goes down a little bit lower. The size starts off low, goes up a bit higher, actually all the way to 1,000. And then the complexity I just brought up a little bit throughout the keyframes. And you can see what that kind of looks like. And obviously it sticks around, which we don't want. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is go 10 frames back, go to the transform option, opacity, and then bring it down to 0. Then I'm also, while we're here, going to go ahead and duplicate the background layer and then remove the turbulence displace and make sure that the opacity is at 100. So now you can see effects kind of there. Looks a little weird with the harsh edges here. We can fix that in a second. Obviously there's no glow. This is the first effect, but you can see that it's kind of like exploding out, which is really, really cool. And I'm also just going to go to the effects again, highlight them all, hold F9. It's going to ease them. I'm going to do that with the opacity as well. Just makes everything look a little bit smoother, and we can go ahead and play that. The next thing I'm going to do is just slap on some glow. I'm going to use sapphire glow. You can use any kind of glow, like I always say. I would just find sapphire as like my favorite. And then you can obviously see that it makes it glow. I'm going to go ahead and choose a color. You can choose any color. In the video, I think they did purple. I like something like a nice blue. I'm going to do like a baby blue for this one. You can play and tweak with it as much as you want. I think it looks pretty good so far. I'm going to go ahead and keyframe the brightness on the first frame to like something like 5, and then go 10 frames in and keyframe it down to like 2. That way it kind of just has a little bit of explosion look. It's nothing too crazy or noticeable, but it's there and it has that feeling. If you want, you can even go ahead and keyframe the brightness up more. And then you can also play with the threshold if you want it to just affect more. I'm going to have it brought down a bit so it kind of glows a little bit more throughout the whole thing. And then the next thing I'm going to do is basically just go to Sapphire, Distort Chroma, and slap that on. I think it just makes the effect look better. You don't have to if you don't have Sapphire, but I think it is just a good effect to bring it onto this as well. You can play with where you want it. If you bring it above the glow, you can see it has a different look, and if you bring it below, I'm going to leave it below for right now. The amount I'm just going to play with, keyframe the amount from like maybe 1.5 to 20 frames in or whatever, and just bring it down to like 0.2. That way it kind of dissolves as well. And it's all about tweaking too. I'm going to actually go into the effects here, go to our Distort Chroma, play around with it a little bit more. So I actually think it looks a little bit better when it's like pretty low actually. So I'm going to leave it at 0.5, and then it will slowly get less to 0.2. Going to go ahead and ease these keyframes just because that's starting to look pretty good. The next thing I'm going to go ahead and do is just to get rid of these like harsh edges here where it looks like that, I'm going to go ahead and add some Gaussian blur. I think this kind of just like ties the effect together. Always click repeat edge pixels so you don't get any harsh edges. And then I'm going to keyframe the blurriness from 0, go 20 frames in, and bring it up to like 40 or something. And you can see what that does. It smooths out the edges a little bit. I'm actually going to go ahead and bring up that Gaussian blur just a bit, maybe something like 65. That way it's a lot smoother when it kind of finally ends up. And then the last effect I'm going to drag on to this specific layer is optics compensation. Click reverse lens distortion, keyframe the field of view, and then go to the last frame. I'm actually just going to not go to the 20th frame right now and just play with it. So like 110 looks pretty good to me. And then I'm going to go to the 20th frame and drag it. Since it already is at 0% opacity, I just wanted to see what it would look like. And that way it kind of just looks like it's coming at you a little bit more, like exploding out. All these effects are pretty optional too. Like you can see a different look if you just turn off Distort Chroma. You can see what that looks like. Some people might like it more, some people might like it a little bit less. You can play with all those like distort effects on this and really make your own transition or effect. Because I noticed, obviously mine's pretty similar to nitive's, but it's not the exact same. So all these different things are going to make it look different. Even just dragging the Distort Chroma above the glow, you can see a different outcome. So I just recommend just playing around with it as much as possible. One last thing I'm going to do is actually just pre-compose all of these, just to give it a little bit more of a explosion. Because I noticed like Nitive and these style edits always kind of just have like a little bit of shake and a little bit of glow kind of as a transition. So the first thing I'm going to go ahead and do is add Sapphire Shake, and then keyframe the frequency from like 1 to 10 frames in 0. And I might play with the amplitude depending. And then depending on your clip, you can choose how many frames you want that shake to take place for. I'm going to go ahead and actually make it 5 instead of 10. I just think it's going to look better. Just be a little bit more aggressive. And then I'm also going to ease them. And you can see that looks a little bit better. I'm going to increase the amplitude to like 2.5. And then I'm going to turn motion blur on, because I always think motion blur looks pretty good, as well as just turn up the blur length a decent amount. And obviously you can tweak around with all these settings and stuff to make it look like whatever you want. I think it's maybe a little bit too aggressive and too short, but for the sake of tutorial, I'm just going to leave it alone. And then maybe just add some glow or something onto the pre-comped layer. just for like a little bit extra of an explosion at the beginning. You can copy and paste the glow from earlier, so it's like the exact same color or whatever. Right now I'm just gonna leave it, and then I'm just gonna make the threshold so it's kind of just slowly coming in onto them, and then I'm gonna go 10 frames in and turn it down to 0. That way it's a little bit more of a abrupt explosion. And then I'm also gonna I forgot to keyframe the amplitude down so it doesn't have these lines over here. So now I'm just gonna bring it down to 1. 1 on the 10th frame, and then go 10 more frames in and keyframe it to 0. And that way it's not off axis anymore. I think it's pretty simple. I can show you one that I did a little bit earlier. Obviously it looks a little bit different because each time you're gonna do it, and depending on the clip, it's gonna look different. This one was like way too fast. I was just practicing the effects. But if you want just like a little bit of like a pop or whatever, you can do it that way too. And obviously some of the settings are a little bit different. I kind of matched the color to his hoodie a little bit better. But yeah, guys, that's pretty much all I got for you guys in this tutorial. If you did enjoy it, please like, comment, subscribe, tell your friends about the channel. It really does help grow the community and helps me be able to do more tutorials and stuff for you guys. Follow me on Instagram. Link will be in the description, Discord, all that stuff. But yeah, guys, peace.